The moment we landed in Turkey, I felt like I could finally breathe again. The scent of the sea mixed with the warm breeze as we stepped out of the airport, the promise of a perfect vacation hanging in the air. Just imagine it, I said, nudging Daniel playfully. You and me, a week of nothing but sun, sea, and relaxation. Daniel chuckled, running a hand through his dark hair. I can't wait, he said, squeezing my hand. No emails, no work calls, just us. We had chosen a beautiful 5-star hotel perched on a cliffside, overlooking the dazzling blue waters of the Mediterranean. The moment we stepped into our suite, I knew we had made the right choice. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the sea, the golden hues of the setting sun shimmering on the surface like melted gold. The bed was draped in crisp white sheets, and outside, a balcony with a small table and 2 chairs overlooked the endless horizon. Wow, I breathed, stepping toward the view. Daniel set our suitcases down and wrapped his arms around me from behind. Worth every penny, he murmured against my ear. For the first couple of days, everything was perfect. Mornings spent sipping coffee on the balcony, afternoons exploring the coastline and swimming in the hotel's infinity pool, and evenings indulging in delicious Mediterranean cuisine. We laughed, we talked, we reconnected, something we hadn't done in a long time. But on the 4th morning, something shifted. I woke up feeling energized and excited for another day by the sea, but Daniel seemed off. He was still in bed, rubbing his temples as if he had the worst headache of his life. Are you okay? I asked, sitting on the edge of the bed. He groaned. I don't feel great, he muttered. Maybe something I ate? My brows furrowed. We had eaten the same things the night before. Do you want me to call a doctor? No, he waved me off. I just need to rest. You should go to the beach without me. I hesitated. Are you sure? Yes, he insisted, turning over and pulling the covers up. Go, have fun. I'll be fine in a few hours. It wasn't like Daniel to want to stay in bed. Usually, he was the one dragging me out the door, eager to explore. But I didn't want to argue, so I kissed his forehead and promised to bring him back a smoothie from the beach bar. As I walked through the hotel's grand lobby, I felt a twinge of disappointment. I had been looking forward to spending the day together, but maybe a little alone time wouldn't be so bad. The beach was just a short walk down a winding stone path lined with palm trees. I picked out a sunbed near the water, laid out my towel, and reached into my bag for my sunscreen, only to realize I had forgotten it. Ugh, I muttered under my breath. Without it, I'd be as red as a lobster in an hour. The hotel wasn't far, I could run back, grab it, and be back on the beach in 10 minutes. So I made my way back up the path, my flip-flops slapping against the stone. The hallway to our suite was quiet, the only sound being the distant hum of the ocean. When I reached the door, I turned the handle and stepped inside. That's when my world shattered. Daniel wasn't in bed. He wasn't sick. He was standing by the balcony doors, his shirt unbuttoned, his hands tangled in the hair of another woman, the owner of the hotel. And she was kissing him. For a moment, my body refused to move. My mind struggled to catch up with what my eyes were seeing. The two of them stood there, silhouetted by the golden sunlight streaming through the sheer curtains. Daniel's hands were on her waist, his fingers pressing into the fabric of her elegant, flowing dress. Her hands were tangled in his hair as she tilted her head back, letting out a soft, amused laugh. A laugh. As if this wasn't the ultimate betrayal. Something inside me snapped. What the hell is going on here? My voice came out sharper than I intended, but I didn't care. The woman, tall, effortlessly beautiful, and exuding confidence, turned first. She didn't even look guilty. If anything, she looked slightly amused, as if I had just interrupted a business meeting instead of catching my husband in the middle of an affair. Daniel, on the other hand, paled instantly. His hands dropped to his sides like a child caught doing something wrong. His lips parted as if to speak, but for the first time in his life, he was speechless. Anna, he finally stammered. This isn't what it looks like. A bitter laugh bubbled up in my throat. Oh, really? I took a slow step inside, slamming the door behind me. Because it looks a lot like you lied to me about being sick so you could stay behind and cheat on me. Daniel ran a hand through his hair, his classic nervous tick. Please, just, let me explain. The woman, his mistress, leaned against the balcony railing with an air of arrogance. Why don't you let him speak, darling, she said, her accent smooth and dripping with condescension. It's not as dramatic as you think. My gaze snapped to her. And who the hell are you to tell me what I should or shouldn't think? She smirked. I own this hotel. I blinked. Then I laughed. It was a sharp, humorless sound. Oh. That's just perfect. What, did you throw in a complimentary affair with the honeymoon package? Her smirk didn't waver. I think you should calm down before you embarrass yourself. Daniel finally moved, stepping toward me, his expression pleading. Anna, I swear, this isn't serious. It was just, he stopped himself, as if realizing there was no good way to end that sentence. Just what? Just a mistake. Just a lapse in judgment. Just another way to prove I had wasted years of my life on someone who didn't deserve me? I held up a hand, silencing him. My heart was pounding, my hands trembling, but I refused to let either of them see my pain. I wouldn't give them that satisfaction. You're disgusting, I said, my voice quiet but firm. Both of you. I turned to the woman, sizing her up. You knew he was married? She shrugged. Of course. Of course. I clenched my jaw so tightly my teeth ached. Then I hope you two are very happy together, I said, stepping back toward the door. Because as far as I'm concerned, you deserve each other. Daniel took another step toward me, his expression shifting from guilt to panic. Anna, please, let's talk about this. I ignored him. I refused to cry. Instead, I turned on my heel and walked out, slamming the door behind me. I didn't stop walking. Not when I reached the elevator, not when I reached the hotel lobby, not when I stepped outside into the warm Turkish air. I kept moving, my breath shallow, my mind reeling. How could this be happening? How had I been so blind? The betrayal hit me in waves. The lies. The stolen kisses behind my back. The thought of Daniel touching another woman the way he once touched me made my stomach churn. I needed to get away. But first, I needed a plan. And if Daniel thought I was just going to disappear quietly, he had another thing coming. The salty breeze hit my face the moment I stepped outside, but it did nothing to cool the fire raging inside me. My legs carried me forward, past the neatly trimmed hedges of the hotel, past the lounging guests sipping cocktails under oversized umbrellas, past the infinity pool where Daniel and I had spent the last 3 days pretending we were happy. I barely noticed the path leading down to the beach until my feet hit the sand. My breaths came fast, uneven. My whole body buzzed, my hands clenched at my sides. I had just walked in on my husband, kissing another woman. Not just any woman. The woman who owned the very hotel we had chosen for our romantic getaway. The absurdity of it made me let out a sharp, bitter laugh. Are you okay, miss? The voice startled me. I turned to see a bartender watching me from a small wooden beach bar, concern etched on his tanned face. I must have looked unhinged, wild-eyed, fists clenched, chest rising and falling with every breath I forced through my nose. I straightened, forcing a smile. I'm fine, I lied. Just needed some air. The bartender hesitated before nodding. Would you like a drink? Something strong? For a split second, I considered it. Drowning my emotions in a cold glass of something potent sounded tempting. But no. I needed my mind sharp. I'm good, I said. Thanks. I turned away, staring out at the water. The waves lapped at the shore, indifferent to the storm raging inside me. It felt unfair, how the world kept moving, how the ocean kept breathing, when my entire life had just cracked open. I had two choices. I could break down here, let the betrayal consume me, let Daniel and that woman go on about their day as if my pain was nothing but a passing inconvenience. Or I could do something. I pulled my phone from my bag, my fingers shaking only slightly as I opened my camera roll. Daniel had made a grave mistake. He hadn't covered his tracks well. Maybe he had gotten too comfortable, too arrogant. Maybe he had actually convinced himself that I would never find out. But I had proof now. And I wasn't about to suffer in silence. I scrolled through my messages, hovering over one contact. Emma. My best friend. The one person I trusted more than anyone in the world. She had always warned me about Daniel, told me there was something off about him. I hated that she had been right. I tapped her name and hit the call button. She answered on the second ring. Anna? She sounded groggy. It's, like, 5 a.m. here. What's wrong? I swallowed hard. The moment I opened my mouth, the words came tumbling out. Daniel's cheating on me. Silence. Then, that son of a... I caught him, I said, my voice eerily calm. In our hotel room. With the owner of the hotel. Another beat of silence. Then Emma let out a long breath. Tell me everything. So I did. Every detail. Every sickening moment. The way he had looked at me, caught, guilty, but not devastated. Not sorry. When I finished, Emma was quiet. Then, what do you want to do? That was the million-dollar question, wasn't it? I want him to feel what I'm feeling, I said, my grip tightening around my phone. I want to ruin this little fantasy world he's built for himself. Emma hummed. Revenge, huh? Justice. She let out a slow chuckle. You always were the strategic one. All right. What's the plan? I looked back at the hotel, the building gleaming under the afternoon sun. Oh, I said, a slow, dangerous smile forming. You'll see. Because if Daniel thought he could humiliate me and get away with it, he had seriously underestimated the woman he married. By the time I returned to the hotel, my anger had transformed into something sharper, more calculated. I wasn't just hurt anymore, I was focused. Daniel had made a mistake. He had underestimated me. And that was about to cost him. As I stepped through the grand lobby, my mind was already working, piecing together my plan. The hotel was luxurious, filled with wealthy travelers who had no patience for scandals. And the owner, Daniel's mistress, was someone who undoubtedly valued her pristine reputation. That was my leverage. I spotted the front desk and walked up with a bright, friendly smile, one that hid the fire burning inside me. The receptionist, a young woman with sleek dark hair, greeted me with a polite nod. Hi, I said, leaning on the counter slightly. I need to make a request for my husband and me. Of course, ma'am. How can I assist you? I lowered my voice conspiratorially, like I was sharing a secret. We're celebrating something special, I said, smiling sweetly. And I want to surprise him. I heard there's a private dining area near the beach. The receptionist's face lit up. Ah, yes. The candlelit private dinner. It's one of our most exclusive experiences. Perfect, I said. Can I book it for tonight? Absolutely. We'll set up a romantic dinner for 2. What time would you like it? I pretended to think for a moment. Let's do 8 p.m. And actually, I tilted my head, giving her my most innocent look. Can we make it a surprise for my husband? Maybe have someone personally invite him to the dinner while I get ready? She nodded eagerly. Of course. We'll send a handwritten invitation to your room and have someone escort him to the location at the right time. That was exactly what I needed. I gave her Daniel's name and room number, along with mine. She didn't bat an eye. As far as she knew, I was just a devoted wife planning a special evening for her husband. If only she knew. The next move. Back in the suite, I took my time getting ready, not for Daniel, but for myself. I needed to look composed, untouchable. My emotions might have been a hurricane beneath the surface, but on the outside? I would be the picture of control. I slipped into a deep red dress, one that hugged my body just right, and took a long look in the mirror. He's going to regret this. At exactly 7:45 p.m., I left the room and made my way to the beach. The private dining area was stunning, an intimate setup beneath a white canopy, soft lanterns casting a golden glow on the table set for two. A bottle of champagne chilled in a bucket beside it, and the gentle sound of the waves filled the air. It was perfect. Now all I had to do was wait. The confrontation. At 8 p.m. sharp, Daniel arrived. He was led to the table by a staff member, confusion clear on his face. His dark blue dress shirt was slightly unbuttoned, his sleeves rolled up, as if he had dressed in a hurry. When he saw me sitting there, his entire expression shifted, from confusion to shock. "Anna?" His voice wavered slightly. I smiled, lifting my glass of champagne. "Surprise." His jaw tightened. He glanced around, then took the seat across from me. "What is this?" he asked cautiously. "Our romantic dinner," I said smoothly, setting my glass down. "Just you and me. No lies. No secrets." Daniel exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. "Anna, listen." "No," I cut him off, my voice dangerously soft. "You listen." He tensed. I leaned forward, folding my hands together. "You see, Daniel, I realized something today," I continued. "I realized that I have been an incredible wife. I trusted you. I supported you. And what did you do with that trust?" He didn't answer. I tilted my head. "Go on. Say it." Daniel swallowed. "I messed up." I laughed, shaking my head. "Messed up?" I repeated. "That's what you call it?" He opened his mouth, but I raised a hand to stop him. "No, don't bother," I said. "Because here's the thing, Daniel, you didn't just betray me. You embarrassed me. You made a fool out of me in a hotel filled with strangers." He sighed, rubbing his temples. "Anna, I never wanted to hurt you." I let out a sharp, humorless laugh. "Well, congratulations," I said, picking up my champagne glass. "You did anyway." Silence stretched between us. Finally, I set the glass down and straightened in my chair. "So here's what's going to happen," I said, my voice cool. "You're going to pack your things and leave. Tonight." Daniel's eyes snapped to mine. "Anna." "I've already spoken to the front desk," I continued, ignoring his protest. "Your bags will be sent to a different hotel. You will not be staying here. You will not ruin this place for me." His face darkened. "You can't just." "Oh, but I can," I interrupted smoothly. "And I have. Because, Daniel, while you were busy sneaking around with her, I was making sure that I didn't walk away from this as the woman who got cheated on. I refuse to be a victim in your pathetic little story." His hands curled into fists on the table. "You can't just kick me out." I smiled. "I didn't. The owner of this hotel did." Daniel's eyes widened slightly. I leaned in, my voice dropping to a whisper. "Turns out, people don't like being publicly exposed as homewreckers in their own establishment." I raised an eyebrow. "Your mistress?" "She was just informed that her business reputation might take a hit if this scandal gets out." Realization dawned in his eyes. "Anna, what did you do?" I shrugged, taking another sip of champagne. "Oh, nothing much. Just had a little chat with some guests." You'd be amazed how quickly rumors spread in a 5-star resort. Daniel exhaled sharply, dragging a hand down his face. "Jesus Christ." I leaned back, crossing my legs. "Enjoy your new hotel, Daniel, I said, lifting my glass one last time. And give my regards to your boss. His face twisted with frustration, but he knew he had lost. I stood, leaving him sitting there as I walked away, because this time, I was the one who was done. And for the first time since stepping off that plane, I felt free. I didn't look back. As I walked away from the candlelit dinner, from Daniel, from the wreckage of what was once our marriage, I felt something unexpected. Not sadness. Not regret. Relief. The weight that had been pressing on my chest since the moment I walked into that hotel room was finally gone. By the time I reached the hotel bar, I had fully stepped into my new reality. I wasn't the betrayed wife anymore. I was the woman who had taken control of her own story. Champagne, please, I told the bartender, sliding onto a stool. He gave me a knowing smile as he poured. That was quite the scene earlier. I arched an eyebrow. Word travels fast, huh? He chuckled. In a place like this? Absolutely. I took a sip of the bubbly drink, feeling the crisp coolness slide down my throat. Good, I said. Let everyone talk. Because if Daniel wanted to humiliate me, he had failed spectacularly. The fallout. I slept better that night than I had in months. When I woke the next morning, the first thing I did was check my phone. A dozen missed calls from Daniel. A string of unread messages. Daniel, Anna, please talk to me. Daniel, this isn't how we should end things. Daniel, I don't even know where to start. Daniel, can we just meet? Just for a few minutes? I stared at the screen, unmoved. How funny, I thought. That now, when it was too late, he finally wanted to talk. Too bad I had nothing left to say. Ignoring the messages, I stretched luxuriously and stepped out onto the balcony. The morning sun bathed the sea in gold, and the rhythmic sound of the waves was soothing, almost meditative. This was my vacation now. Mine. Daniel was out of my hotel. Out of my life. And I planned to enjoy every second of my freedom. An unexpected visitor. I was halfway through breakfast when I saw her. The woman. The owner of the hotel. She stood near the entrance of the dining terrace, dressed in a sleek white suit, her sunglasses perched on top of her head. Even from a distance, I could see that she was scanning the tables, searching for someone. Then her gaze locked onto me. Oh, this should be interesting. She approached with slow, deliberate steps, her heels clicking against the tile. The few guests nearby lowered their voices, watching the interaction unfold. When she finally stopped at my table, she crossed her arms. Enjoying your morning? I took a sip of my coffee, unbothered. Immensely. Her lips pressed into a thin line. You've caused quite a stir, she said. I smiled. I do have that effect sometimes. She let out a soft chuckle, but there was no amusement behind it. You think you've won, don't you? I tilted my head. Won what, exactly? She leaned forward slightly. Daniel is a grown man, she said coolly. He made his own choices. I don't regret a thing. I raised an eyebrow. Good for you. Her expression darkened. But what you did, dragging my business into this, was reckless. I set my coffee cup down, meeting her gaze with unwavering calm. Let me make something very clear, I said softly. I didn't drag your business into this. You did that the moment you decided to sleep with a married guest in your own hotel. She inhaled sharply, but I wasn't finished. You thought you could have your fun without consequences, I continued. And maybe, with another woman, you could have. But you chose the wrong wife to betray. Silence hung between us. Then, she smirked. You're stronger than I thought. I leaned back in my chair. You have no idea. She studied me for a moment, then exhaled and took a step back. Enjoy the rest of your stay. I watched as she turned and walked away, her perfect posture never faltering. And for the first time in a long time, I realized something. I didn't just feel free. I felt powerful. The moment she walked away, I felt an exhilarating sense of triumph. Not because I had humiliated her, but because I had stood my ground. For too long, I had made myself small. I had bent, accommodated, and ignored the little signs that something was wrong in my marriage. But not anymore. I was done being that woman. As I finished my breakfast, I made a decision. This trip was no longer about mourning what I had lost. It was about celebrating what I had gained. A day of indulgence. By noon, I was at the spa, wrapped in a plush robe, sipping herbal tea as a massage therapist worked the tension out of my shoulders. The scent of lavender and eucalyptus filled the air, soothing me in ways I hadn't even realized I needed. I let my mind drift, enjoying the sensation of being cared for, not by a man, but by myself. This was self-love. This was healing. After my massage, I booked a private boat tour. As the yacht cut through the waves, the Turkish coastline stretched out before me, rugged cliffs, hidden coves, and endless blue waters. I leaned against the railing, letting the wind whip through my hair. For the first time in days, I wasn't thinking about Daniel. I wasn't thinking about them. I was thinking about me. The inevitable text. Of course, peace never lasted long. That evening, as I sipped a cocktail by the infinity pool, my phone buzzed. Daniel, we need to talk. I rolled my eyes. Daniel, I know I screwed up, but we can't just end things like this. You owe me a conversation. I owed him. I scoffed, shaking my head. If anything, he owed me an apology, an explanation, an ounce of respect. But I already knew how that conversation would go. He would justify. He would downplay. He would try to shift some of the blame onto me. I wasn't interested in hearing any of it. So I didn't reply. An unexpected encounter. I was about to put my phone away when a voice beside me said, "Rough night?" I turned to see a man standing at the bar, watching me with a knowing smile. He was tall, sun-kissed, with dark eyes that held just the right amount of mischief. His linen shirt was unbuttoned at the top, his sleeves rolled up casually. He looked like someone who belonged in a place like this, effortlessly confident, untouched by heartbreak. I arched an eyebrow. That obvious? He smirked. A beautiful woman, alone at a resort, scowling at her phone? Yeah, I'd say it's obvious. I let out a soft laugh, shaking my head. You got me there. He extended a hand. I'm Leo. I hesitated for only a second before shaking it. Anna. Well, Anna, he said, leaning against the bar, how about a distraction? I tilted my head. What kind of distraction? He grinned. A harmless one. A drink. A conversation. A reminder that you're still you. I studied him for a moment. I wasn't looking for a rebound. I wasn't looking for revenge. But I was looking for a reminder. That I was more than just a betrayed wife. That I was still desirable. Still alive. I lifted my glass. A distraction sounds perfect. And just like that, I took another step toward reclaiming myself. Leo was easy to talk to. Effortless, even. As we sat at the bar, I found myself laughing more than I had in weeks. He told me stories about his travels, places I had always dreamed of visiting but never had the chance to. I used to think I'd go to Paris for my honeymoon, I admitted, swirling my drink. Leo raised an eyebrow. Didn't happen? I shook my head, laughing bitterly. Nope. Daniel, my ex, or soon-to-be ex, said it was too cliché. Leo smirked. And now? I exhaled. Now I think I'll go alone. He clinked his glass against mine. That's the spirit. A different kind of rush. After another round of drinks, Leo leaned in, his voice lowering. Come on, he said. I have an idea. I narrowed my eyes playfully. Should I be concerned? He grinned. Only if you're afraid of a little adventure. Curiosity got the better of me. All right. Let's go. We left the bar and walked down the beach, where the night air was warm, the sound of the waves rhythmic and soothing. Then he stopped in front of a jet ski rental booth. I blinked. You're kidding. He shrugged. You said you wanted a distraction. What's better than speeding across the water under the moonlight? I laughed. You are absolutely insane. But that was the thing, I needed insane. I had spent so much of my life being careful, measured, trying to be the perfect wife. And what had it gotten me? A husband who lied. A marriage built on false security. I had nothing to lose. So I climbed onto the back of the jet ski, wrapping my arms around Leo's waist as the engine roared to life. And when we took off, racing across the water, the wind whipping against my face, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long, long time. Pure, unfiltered freedom. The morning after. By the time we got back to shore, I was breathless, exhilarated. Leo walked me back to my hotel, stopping just outside the entrance. Well, he said, smirking, did I succeed? I tilted my head. At what? He leaned in slightly. Making you forget him. I met his gaze, holding it for a beat longer than necessary. I think you did. For a moment, I thought he might kiss me. And maybe I would have let him. But then he smiled, stepping back. Good. No pressure. No expectations. Just an unforgettable night with a stranger who had reminded me what it felt like to be alive. I walked into my hotel feeling lighter. For the first time since arriving in Turkey, I knew I was going to be okay. Daniel's last attempt. The next morning, I found another message waiting for me. Daniel, Anna, please. Just one conversation. Face to face. A week ago, I might have agreed. But not anymore. I smiled, deleted the message, and went to enjoy my last day in paradise. Because Daniel no longer had a place in my story. The final day of my trip felt different. Lighter. Like I had shed a version of myself I no longer recognized. I spent the morning lounging on the beach, the sun warming my skin, the sound of the waves a soothing rhythm against my thoughts. For the first time in days, I didn't check my phone obsessively. I wasn't waiting for another message from Daniel. Because I had already made my decision. I was done. Still, part of me knew that walking away completely meant confronting him one last time. Not for him, he didn't deserve that. But for me. So, instead of ignoring his last plea for a conversation, I made a choice. I would meet him. But on my terms. A final conversation. I sent Daniel a message, keeping it short. Meet me at the hotel terrace at sunset. That's all you get. No explanations. No negotiations. He responded almost instantly. Daniel, thank you. I'll be there. I took my time getting ready. Not because I wanted to impress him, but because I wanted to remind myself of the woman I was before he broke me. The woman who had never needed him to begin with. By the time I reached the terrace, the sun was melting into the horizon, streaking the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Daniel was already there, waiting by a small table near the railing. When he saw me, his expression shifted, relief mixed with something else. Something that might have once been love. But it was too late for that. I took the seat across from him, folding my hands in my lap. All right, I said coolly. Talk. He sighed, rubbing his jaw. Anna, I don't even know where to start. I tilted my head. Try the beginning. Daniel exhaled. I messed up, he admitted. I never wanted to hurt you. I don't have an excuse for what I did. I let out a soft laugh. No, you don't. He looked at me then, his eyes searching. Do you even care anymore? I thought about it. Once, I had imagined that a moment like this, where he finally acknowledged his betrayal, would bring me closure. But now? It didn't matter. I did care, I said honestly. You broke my heart, Daniel. You made me question everything. But now? I smiled slightly. Now, I just feel sorry for you. His brow furrowed. What's that supposed to mean? I leaned forward. It means I get to move on, I said. I get to leave this place stronger, wiser. But you? You have to live with the choices you made. You have to live with knowing you threw away something real for, what, a fling? Daniel flinched. It wasn't just a fling. I raised an eyebrow. No? Then where is she now? I smirked. That's what I thought. He swallowed, looking down. Anna, I stood, cutting him off. No, I said firmly. You don't get to finish this. I do. I let the words sink in before stepping back. Goodbye, Daniel. And just like that, I walked away, without looking back. The power of moving on. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't analyze every word of our conversation, searching for meaning. Instead, I poured myself a glass of wine, sat on my balcony, and watched the stars. Tomorrow, I would fly home. Tomorrow, I would start the next chapter of my life. And for the first time in a long time, I couldn't wait. The next morning, I woke up feeling different. Not broken. Not bitter. Not lost. Just ready. Ready to leave Turkey. Ready to start over. Ready to take my life back. I packed my suitcase with a sense of finality. Every folded dress, every tucked-away sandal felt like a piece of my old life being put away for good. By the time I reached the lobby to check out, I felt lighter than I had in years. That was, until I saw him. Daniel stood near the entrance, his phone in hand, his expression uncertain. I sighed, shaking my head. Seriously? I had already given him more than he deserved. But just as I turned to ignore him, his eyes met mine. He hesitated, then took a step forward. Anna. I held up a hand, stopping him in his tracks. No, I said firmly. Whatever you're about to say, it doesn't matter. His jaw tightened. I just wanted to. I smiled, cutting him off. I don't care. And for the first time, I meant it. I turned on my heel and walked straight outside, leaving him standing there. It felt good. An unexpected goodbye. Outside, the sun was bright, the breeze warm. I was about to call for a taxi when a familiar voice stopped me. Well, Leo drawled. Escaping without saying goodbye? I turned to find him leaning against a palm tree, his signature smirk in place. I laughed. I didn't think you were the sentimental type. He shrugged. I'm not. But I figured you'd at least owe me a proper farewell. I stepped closer, tilting my head. Fine. Goodbye, Leo. He chuckled. That's all I get? I smirked. That's all you get. He studied me for a moment, then nodded approvingly. You look different. I raised an eyebrow. How so? Lighter. His smirk softened. Like a woman who finally realized she's too damn good for a man who never deserved her. Warmth spread through my chest. You're not wrong. He grinned. I rarely am. A taxi pulled up behind me, and I exhaled. This was it. The real goodbye. I turned back to Leo. Thanks for the distraction. He winked. Anytime. And with that, I slid into the car, watching as Leo gave me one last playful salute before disappearing into the crowd. The flight home. As the plane took off, I didn't look back at the country I was leaving behind. I was done looking back. Instead, I gazed ahead, toward home, toward my future, toward myself. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't just surviving. I was living. The flight home felt different. No anxiety. No sadness. No anger. Just peace. I stared out of the window, watching the clouds roll past, feeling like I was leaving more than just Turkey behind. I was leaving the old me behind, too, the woman who had once put her husband's happiness above her own, who had ignored the warning signs, who had settled for less than she deserved. That version of me was gone. By the time I landed, I already knew what I had to do. Closing the last door. I barely gave myself time to settle before I called a lawyer. I want a divorce, I said the moment I sat down in her office. The woman across from me nodded knowingly, as if she had heard the same sentence 100 times before. Let's get started. It was that simple. That empowering. For weeks, Daniel tried to reach out. Emails, texts, even a pathetic voicemail where he claimed he had made a mistake. I ignored them all. Because I had learned something important. Closure wasn't something he could give me. Closure was something I gave myself. And I had already found it. A life on my terms. Months passed. The divorce papers were signed, my name was mine again, and Daniel became nothing more than a distant memory. And me? I booked a ticket to Paris. Alone. I wandered the streets, ate buttery croissants by the Seine, stood beneath the Eiffel Tower as it glittered against the night sky. And I realized, this was exactly where I was meant to be. Not longing for the past. Not waiting for someone to choose me. Just living. On my own terms. Because in the end, this wasn't a story about heartbreak. This was a story about freedom. And I had finally found it.